Uh, okay. And just there we go. So today we're along the same lines of what we've been speaking about until now. First, tell you a little story to sort of bring us to bring home the point. There was a rabbi, a priest, and a minister. I don't know if you ever heard that story before. It's quite a popular jokes. So the rabbi, the priest, and the minister, they were friends with each other. They went out for coffee or something, and they started talking about that they're not living forever and they're going to die, and they're looking forward to their eulogy. So they do a lot of eulogizing, these ministers, these clergymen, and so they decided to discuss what kind of eulogy they would like for their passing, what people will say about them. And the priest said, that I hope the people will talk at my eulogy about my dedication, how I was dedicated to my flock, and I was always there for them when they needed me, and I never took any vacations. My total self-sacrifice. And the minister says, "Oh, very nice. I'd like that in my eulogy they'll speak about my kindness, about how I was kind to people, and I gave a lot of charity, and I always was charitable to people, and always I opened my home and I had people eating in my house whenever there was a poor person. I always brought them in. So I hope they speak about my charity. That's what I hope my eulogy will be all about." And the rabbi says to both of them, he says, I have a different idea. He says, I hope that the guy that gets up by my funeral will turn around, will look at the casket and say, "Oi, give a look. He's still moving. He's still moving." And everybody jumped up from their seats. But the rabbi was onto something. What does that mean? A eulogy is not just something of the past. A eulogy is about a person that leaves a true impact on this world. It's not just something you speak about. He was a great person. He lived in the past. But a true great person is someone that impacts the world and changes the world for the good in a way that even at the funeral, they could speak about him and say, "Look, he's still moving. He's still alive." We know the famous parsha that speaks about the first Jewish woman that passed away. Her name was Sarah. And it says that Abraham eulogized her and buried her and cried for her. And the name of the parsha is called Khair, Sarah, the life of Sarah. So the commentaries say, why are we talking about the life of Sarah? This is when she passes away. It should be called the death of Sarah. So they say, no. Sarah lived such a life that even when she passed on, she impacted the world in such a way that she still was considered like she was alive. So that's Chaye Sarah, and that's the form of eulogy is to try to find aspects about the person that's not dead, that still continues to live on, whether it's through the children, or through friends, or through influences, or through community, or through proteges, through students, all different kinds of ways that we can continue, that it should be it's called a living legacy. But we know that Judaism, there is a big tradition that goes back thousands of years to actually, at a funeral, to perform a eulogy. What's a eulogy? A eulogy is words that are said, nice words that are said about the greatness of the person that passed away, and how much we'll miss them, and how they impacted our lives. And everyone knows that's what eulogy is. So the first eulogy that's brought in the Torah is the eulogy that Abraham made for his wife Sarah. And it says that Avram came to the funeral. It says lispoda, to offer eulogies, vilivkota, and to cry for her. So if you give a look in the Torah, the word when it speaks about crying, that Abraham cried for his wife Sarah, it mentions the word crying with a small little chaf. In the Torah, all the letters are medium size. Once in a while, you get a big letter, a letter that's a little bit larger for some reason, and you sometimes find a little letter. And when he says the word crying, the chaf of the letter livkota, to cry for her, is a small chaf. So the commentaries speak about it. What did Avram cry a little bit for her? Not a lot. But so many explain that she was such a great person, that she lived such a rich life, and she accomplished so much in her life that he primarily came just to eulogize her. Once he started eulogizing her, he started to cry, couldn't hold himself back. But initially he wasn't crying because he felt that she lived a rich life, a meaningful life, and he was able to see that. So he didn't, that's why the crying was a little bit, and the crying came only after the eulogy. So he eulogized her, and that brought out obviously his feelings, and he started to cry. But he wasn't crying. Sometimes we cry because we feel that the person, didn't really get to do what they had to do, and the person died young, or the person had a short life, or a person, or we feel that the person didn't get a chance to do what they could have done and what it could have accomplished. But Sarah, Avraham Avinu, felt, she lived 127 years. Well, that's a long life, 127 years. We say we always give people blessings, may you live to 120. Well, and she had 7 extra years, so that's pretty good. And it says that she was like a very, very perfect woman. Many people say that there's a prayer that we say on Friday nights that husbands read it, but everyone reads it by the Shabbos table. There's a prayer known as Aishit Chayil, a woman of valor, that was written by King Solomon. And it's read on Friday nights, and many husbands make a whole spiel out of it, and they read it to their wives. Whenever we have guests in our home, we always get the husbands to read it to their wives and speak about a woman of valor, which is a very, very famous prayer. At many funerals, they actually read the Aishit Chayil. They read it as part of the ceremony. If it's a woman that passed away, many times they read it either by the funeral or by the unveiling. It's a very, very famous prayer, very, very famous poem that was authored by none other than King Solomon. King Solomon authored this prayer called Aishit Chayil, a woman of valor. It's one of the most beautiful prayers, the most beautiful poems about the greatness of the Jewish woman and the woman of valor. And what's very fantastic about this particular poem is that every stanza in Aishit Chayil starts with another letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It starts with Aishit Chayil, Aleph, the first sentence. The next sentence starts with Batach, Bet, then Molatu, the Gimel, and Dalad, and Hey, and Vav, until the end it comes to the Shin, Sheker Achein, the Hevel Ayofi, Isha Yir Hashem Zalem, Tnu, Taf at the end. So there's all 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So this was a beautiful prayer that King Solomon brings in the book of Proverbs. In one of the chapters of Proverbs, the whole chapter is called Aishit Chayil. But many have a tradition. There is a tradition that it was actually not written by King Solomon. King Solomon publicized it. But many say that this prayer actually was the eulogy for Abraham's wife, Sarah. I don't know if you ever heard this. And the Aishit Chayil, the prayer that we read on Friday night, it was the eulogy that was made for the first Jewish woman. And so when it says in the Torah that Abraham came, when his wife died, he came to offer eulogy, the eulogy that he offered was this particular poem, Aishit Chayil. King Solomon publicized it later on in his book of the Proverbs, but it was already a prayer that was in place already before. The poem was authored, according to this, by Abraham, and that was the eulogy, the very first eulogy for a Jewish person. Because we know that Abraham and Sarah were the first Jews, and Sarah predeceased Abraham. So the first eulogy of any Jewish person that ever was is this prayer of the Aishit Khair. And I always tell people, you don't have to wait for the funeral to say the Aishit Khair. You should say Aishit Khair before on Friday night. Say it already. Don't wait for eulogies. In general, this is sort of a side point, but lots of people, they wait to say nice things to each other only when they die. A lot of people are very, very withholding of compliments. They give scarce compliments, and when it comes to, but they don't have they don't say to each other nice things, and they wait till the funeral. At the funeral, they get up and they say, "Oh boy, there's so many nice things that are said at the funeral about everyone." Right? Who doesn't say nice things at the funeral? Right? There's always beautiful things that are said. I always tell people, don't wait for the eulogies. Don't wait for the end. Every day, it should be offering words of affirmation, words of compliment, words of thanksgiving, words of all kinds of words which are words of kindness, words of validation. People are waiting within the context of marriage, of parents and children and everything, to say nice things to each other. Offer lots of nice words. Because you don't need to wait for the end over there. After 120, we're going and we're giving the eulogies. But like I said, Abraham gave this beautiful, beautiful eulogy called Aishit Khair. And I just want to look at, there's one line in the Aishit Khair, which is a very beautiful line. We need to understand this particular line that's in this Aishit Khair in the song of King Solomon, and the eulogy of Abraham for Sarah. What does it say over there? It says Sheker Achein Behevel Hayofi, that Chein is charm, is a lie. Behevel Hayofi, and beauty is vanity. It says Isha Yirat Hashem Hititalo. A woman, a God-fearing woman, that's what you should praise. So if you think about it, we know that Sarah, it says she was the most beautiful woman. Sarah, Abraham's wife, the first Jewish woman, she was known for her beauty. Remember when she came into Egypt, they tried taking her away from Abraham. He was afraid that he might get killed because she's so beautiful, they'll take her away at customs. And so he made believe that he was a brother, so they wouldn't kill him if they were to take away his wife. So he said he made a little white lie at the border. He said she's my sister, and he did it twice because she was beautiful. She was gorgeous. Sarah, the very first Jewish woman, as Rashi writes in the Pasha, she lived 127 years. He says that she was beautiful when she was old, like when she was young. So she never even aged. She was a beautiful woman even in her old age. So what does Avrohom Avinu? Avrohom Avinu comes at the eulogy, and he says that beauty is garnished. Charm is nothing. This is all deceit. It's all lies. It's all. The only thing that God really cares about is being God-fearing, is being a good person, which is a very important thing to mention when a person passes away, right? To mention, look, my wife Sarah, her beauty, she was beautiful on the inside. She was God-fearing. She had virtues. But why be so dismissive of physical beauty? It's a creation of God. So I remember one time there was a story of the Miss Israel, the girl that was chosen to be the most beautiful girl in Israel. She was coming to America for some kind of contest, and her agent, a Jewish guy also, he decided he came to New York. So he said he was going to go to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he had a little chutzpah, to bring the Miss Israel. I don't know if that's a nice thing to do, whatever, but he thought he'll come to get a blessing for the beauty pageant. It's not sort of the kind of thing you bring someone to a Rebbe for, say, oh, this is the most beautiful girl, and she's going to try to be the Miss Universe or something. But that was the story. So she came up to the Rebbe. It was a line there. Came up for dollars. The Rebbe used to give out the dollars for tzedakah. You'd go up and you could say a few words. So that this Israeli agent says to the Rebbe, "This is the Miss Israel." And the Rebbe gives her a bracha, gives her a dollar, gives her a bracha. And the Rebbe, while he's talking to her, he says, I was always wondering, the Rebbe says, oh, I see Sonia has the Aishit Chayil there. Very nice. Yeah, is that the Aishit Chayil prayer? Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Okay, gorgeous. It's a little bit of light there, so we can't really see it, but okay. It's still a little glare. Okay, fine. Beautiful. It's good. But you have to tell your husband, to Ivan, that it's not good enough it's on the wall. He has to say it on Friday nights. Yeah? Ivan, you have to say it. It's not enough to to have it on the wall. Like a lot of people, they put the ketubah on the wall, the marriage contract. You have to live it too. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he gives compliments to him. But
actually, excuse me, Rabbi.
Yeah.
He shows it not only with words, because he's a man of few words,
right.
but he does it with action.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Very nice.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. So getting back to my story, so this lady comes up to the Rebbe, and so the Rebbe says to her, the Rebbe says, we read Aishit Chayil every week, this beautiful poem. The Rebbe said, it always bothered me. Why does the poem say that beauty is not, and charm is a lie? I mean, what is King Solomon? The King Solomon, he had 1,000 wives, right? So he was obviously, he didn't dismiss beauty. So why is he saying that? If he wants to elevate the importance of being God-fearing, let him say it's important to be God-fearing. Why knock beauty? So the Rebbe says, he tells us to the girl, he says, it's not that King Solomon is trying to dismiss beauty. He's trying to say that beauty in a vacuum is meaningless. If you just have beauty and that's all you care about is just the physical beauty, says then it's not even real beauty. If there's no meaningful life, if you're not living a deep life, so it's just, it's frivolous, it's external, it's meaningless. But Isha Yirat Hashem, if that beautiful girl also is God-fearing, that means she has an inner meaning to life, then the beauty takes on a different dimension. Then it becomes taka beautiful. So the beauty in a vacuum is not, is a lie. Because what is it? It's just physical. But if you're beautiful on the outside and the inside, then the outside beauty is a real thing, and then it's something to be praised. So that's what King Solomon is saying. He's saying beauty in a vacuum is not. But beauty with an inside beauty, with God-fearing qualities, then that should be praised. So this is a much deeper explanation not rejecting the beauty. The Rebbe told that to the girl. He said, "You're here now in America. Now it's your job to go teach this idea to all your friends. All your friends, I guess, are the other girls that are competing for these contests, to teach them that it's not just the beauty." In fact, I remember a number of years ago, they were talking about that in order to become the Miss whatever, there also has to be other qualities that they should be focusing on. The full person, about their careers, about their choices, about their values. that idea is actually becoming more popular, not just in the religion, not just in Torah, but also in the general world. They're talking about that beauty itself is not something that should be judged. You have to see the full person, the total person. This is a very, very, important lesson in the Ishchar. So in the eulogy itself, Abraham was speaking about his wife, who was the most beautiful of women, but he said, beauty in a vacuum is nothing. Why is she so beautiful? Because she also is Isha Yirat Hashem. She also has the God-fearing qualities. And that's one line. There's 22 lines in the Aishit Khair. We could do that another time to learn the Aishit Khair from beginning to end, to know exactly what, but every line is a whole bombshell. Every line is an amazing teaching. I'm just giving you one line just to give you a little bit of idea of that eulogy, but just in general about eulogies. So, many times, unfortunately, I've had the opportunity of being at many funerals. And sometimes I find that people are excessive. There's a lot of exaggeration that takes place at funerals. And that's not a good thing. People have to be honest and say the real things. And, you can look for everyone, you can find some good qualities. But say the things that are real. Don't make up stuff. It's brought down that by Chabad Chassidim, they avoid eulogies. And the reason is because people were getting like into this, mode of exaggerating. And it's brought down in some of the holy books that when the soul comes up to heaven, it's being judged. And then the angel says, well, what does everyone say about this person? So they say, well, what would everyone say about this person? Let's hear the eulogy. So in the heavens, they listen to the eulogy. And then they mark the person against the eulogy. They go down there and they say, oh, this person was so kind. They're saying this person is so kind. Let's take a seat. Let's check whether this person was kind. This person wasn't kind at all. So then the person is judged even more negative than if nothing was said at all. You understand? So when one says a eulogy, one has to be careful not to exaggerate and not to say things that don't belong to the person. Like I say, sometimes you come to a funeral and you hear things about a person, you say, hold on, am I at the right address? Am I at the right place? Like what are they saying? This is not this person. So you have to say real things, The person might have been a tough person, right? A tough person in their life. It's okay. So you say the person had strong character, strong personality. You can always put a nice spin on it. But don't say things the person never did in their life and make them up, right? So that's why in Chabad, the tradition is not to say eulogies altogether. Just to know that it's in most places eulogies are said, and the people are careful to make sure not to exaggerate. But Chabad, we don't do eulogies altogether. We do the funeral. We say whatever. We say all the prayers and everything, and that's supposed to be said at the funeral. But we don't. There is no eulogies because of that reason, primarily. There's a few other reasons too, but the main reason is because of the exaggeration of funerals that people started becoming, very, very exaggerated. But getting back to Abraham, our Abraham was making a eulogy for Sarah. So it says there was he cried afterwards, a little bit of crying. And that's why eulogies in a way is good. Either you say it at the funeral, or some people will say it, let's say at the Shiva house, or maybe at the Shloshim, when it's not so much the judgment, so they say it later on. But like you see by Abraham, that he said the eulogy and then he cried. He didn't cry before, he cried after he said the eulogy. Because you see, many people, and that's why the Shiva is such an important thing, to give the mourners an opportunity to speak. Many people have like this kind of a problem that when they come to the Shiva house, they don't know what to speak about. So they speak about sports, or they speak about other things that are not applicable to the Shiva house or to the person that just passed away. But because they're uncomfortable, both the person that's offering condolences and the person who's sitting Shiva, so they speak about something else. They don't want to hurt each other. It's like too painful, right? So they talk about business and other things, and about the scotch, what kind of scotch they're serving, and about the rogalach, and about all kinds of things they call Shiva house conversations, right? Which have nothing to do with the Shiva house. And the same thing is the funeral also, the eulogy. The eulogy, sometimes people try to make light stuff and speak about other things, but you have to speak about the person. Yeah. I have sometimes a hard time with they talk about the person like their sports, which teams they liked. Okay, that's not geferlach, but that's not the worst thing. But it has to be a focus on the person. And one reason why it's so important when one comes, let's say, to the Shiva house to speak to the mourner about their loved one, it's therapeutic. So even though the one of the aspects is it's an honor for the person who passed away, but also for the mourners, for the survivors, they need to get it out of their system. They need to speak about it. It's not good to hold it in, as any psychologist will tell you. To hold in all the hurt and all the pain and all the suffering. The person needs to speak about it. God created the words so that so many times when you prompt a person that's sitting Shiva to say some words about their loved one, they think they're okay. And then they start to speak, and then they start to cry. Like Avrohom Avinu, he started to say the Hesped, and then afterwards he cried, even though he thought he was strong. But that was good. That was good, because you need to get it, you need to allow the feelings to come out. If you suppress feelings of hurt, it's very unhealthy. It's dangerous. But if you allow it to come out, that's very healthy. So it's healthy both in terms of psychological benefits, and it's also healthy when you're able to speak about a person. Words have a way of digging to the deepest parts of the soul, more than thoughts. Like when you think of something, you don't get so emotional as when you speak. Kabbalah says that words, when you speak, it reaches into the deepest parts of the soul, the deepest parts of the mind. Like when you give a class, for instance, right? You give a class. So when you study something yourself, you reach one level. But when you have to give it over, it stirs parts of the brain or parts of the heart that you don't even know exist. It spurs on new ideas that come out that you never knew existed. Because the Kabbalah says that dibur, speech, because it's physical and it's farthest from the soul, it reaches into the deepest parts of the soul. Whatever is lower goes higher. Whatever falls lower has a higher source. So the words, which are tangible expressions of the soul, those words have ability of reaching back into the soul, to the deepest parts of the soul, even more than thinking. That's interesting, right? And so when we eulogize, when words are said, and likewise when a mourner speaks in the house of mourning, very healthy, very good, but it also brings out the deepest emotions that the person didn't even know existed. So that's why Avram Avinu, he was strong before, didn't cry before the hesped. It says first he eulogized his wife, and then he cried thereafter, because the words of the eulogy brought out the recesses of his heart, the recesses of his mind. That's the power of eulogy, and also the people that are listening. It also allows them to articulate thoughts about this person, and and to be able to express their emotions. And it says that when a good person passes away, people are supposed to cry for Adam Kosher, for a good person. That is an honorable thing to do, and it's the right thing, because it's even if you know the person accomplished whatever they have to in their life, and you come to terms with what was accomplished, still it's a hurt, and that hurt needs to express itself, and then it expresses itself via the channel of tears. And that is the power of eulogy. Okay, Rabbi Isai. So we're gonna conclude it with this. Today's thing was on eulogy, and we will we remember what the rabbi said, that give a look, he's moving. Right. So you have to remember that the greatest eulogy is the living legacy, and that we should live a life that our family, those that we love, in thereafter will live that kind of life that we set an example for, and they will continue our legacy on earth. And then whenever they look back to us, they'll say, oh, he's alive, like Sarah. Khair is Sarah, the life of Sarah. So, okay, any questions on what we spoke? Want to make a eulogy on my eulogy? You can do so.
Rabbi, if I may, I was taught that when you walk into the Shiva house, you shouldn't be speaking, and you should just quietly come and be close to the mourners and wait for them to speak, and then you sort of engage.
When we speak about the Shiva, we'll discuss that a little bit, and the meaning of that, but that's just what the order of things is, right? What you're talking about. You're talking about what is the Shiva etiquette, that you walk over to them, you sit down, you let them speak, you let them, mostly you listen. You give them an opportunity to open up, but the point is here that you give them the opportunity to open up. So if it's a word or two or something, or to spur the memories, to say, oh, I remember your mother, your father, your friend, this. We remember those days that happened, this, and then you sort of spur their thoughts, and you give them an opportunity to speak. Mostly to listen, not to speak. Allow them to speak first, to open the conversation. That's the Shiva etiquette. But the point that I'm making is that you want to give them opportunity to use their words. And even if they are sometimes, like you say, some people are people of few words, and that's that's just a nature thing, right? But even a few words, there's certain times that it's very important to allow that person, to give them an opportunity to open up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. The shiur was as good as ever. Thank you very much. And
thank you so much. Thank you, Beth, for the compliment. That was the eulogy for the eulogy.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom, and thank you.
As always. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom to everybody. Take care.
Shalom.